Hey, welcome. Oh, I forgot my phone. Oh, there it is. I was thinking, you can't even tell that I'm live. Man, what happened? Okay, so, I know what's happening. I know what's happening. Okay. It's so funny hearing myself. But anyway, hello, hello, hello. And you know what? I need to edit all that beginning stuff out before I let this post, right? But look, I am Dr. Tiffany Marie, and I just did my just decided, you know what? I've been going live on TikTok for over a year, and why not actually do this on Facebook, on YouTube? And so I do plan to do this more on a regular basis, but I just kind of felt like it was in the mood for it today. I was talking to somebody earlier, and they were like, my hubby is doing all this snacking, but the reality is, I don't think they're by themselves because Thanksgiving came, and for many of us who weren't eating like that, we were actually eating clean, we were exercising, we were pulling back on sweets, and then, those floodgates open. They opened with a vengeance. And one thing is when you start opening up that doorway, it's like it's hard to shut it down. And I know it sounds silly, but for my people who are like sugar addicts, they were doing so good. They were drinking their mate drink. They were saying no to things. And then Thanksgiving came, and Aunt Bessie was like, you got to have some of my pie. You got to have some of my cake. Okay. Those are things you have to have. And what it did was it turned on those dopamine receptors. It boosted that whole dopamine kick. And so your body's looking for the next hit again. And I bet some of you have realized that. So Thanksgiving came, and I'm so thankful for Thanksgiving. But a lot of us took home gifts. Okay. And it's not Christmas. Okay. And we didn't need to take home those gifts. The pound cake, the dressing, the macaroni and cheese. No, we didn't need those gifts, okay? Because those gifts come with friends and love handles. So my whole point today is it's time for us to regain control of what we let out the bag. You can kind of call it almost like falling off the wagon. Great thing is the products that I do like help us regain that control. So I have people that are like, oh, I'm going to wait till January 1 before I get things back in line. Why? Why are you waiting till January 1? Your sugar's not going to wait till January 1 to go up. So if you don't make any changes now, you can potentially just keep getting worse. Okay, what are we waiting for? What are we waiting on our finances? Oh, I'm waiting till January 1 to start tightening up my finances. What you doing? So you can spend more now? Does any of that make sense to anybody? Because it doesn't make sense to me. No, we don't need to do that now. We don't need to wait. We don't need to wait for before we do these changes. No, we need to do them now. Okay. And so that's what I wanted to do is I wanted to come on and talk about the urgency of making these changes, of one, taking back control of things that may have gotten out of control. And if it has for you, don't feel bad about it. You're normal, you're human, and it's easy to get it back under control. One of the simple things is going to be is to get all that stuff out your house that you know is problematic. That part. Make sure you have the other snacks. Swap out the unhealthy snacks that you've gotten into with some healthier options. That's the best thing to do until you're able to stop snacking. Okay. I mean, once you get back on the tools I like to use, it'll help you with the snacking. You won't want to do that as much. I mean, that's the reality. That's the reason why I offer it to my members, because it helps. Okay. Now, for people that are dealing with insulin resistance, which unfortunately, if you're in the US, it's a lot of us. It's a lot of us. There was a study that went out, I think that was 2022, and even the study's been updated, but I'm going to go with the 2022 study that showed that 93% of Americans are, well, let me say it this way, 7% of Americans are actually metabolically healthy. That meant that 93% of us probably aren't so healthy. Isn't that scary to see or scary to hear? But it kind of makes sense because we have so many issues. You have some gut health issues, you have migraines, you have pain, you have diabetes, you have prediabetes, you have high blood pressure, you have high cholesterol, you have all these things that increase our risk for cardiovascular disease. One of the great things I've learned is that there is a root cause, and that root cause can actually be reversed, and it can be reversed with our lifestyle. So many times we think that we are powerless to the things that are around us. We're powerless to all the cookies, the candies, the sweets that get brought into our office for the holidays. I mean, I'm a physician, right? And so yeah, when I had my own practice, oh, they came with the trays of candy and cakes and cookies. Yeah, to the doctor's office, no less. They did. The nurses, the doctors, we were tearing that stuff up, okay? Or giving it to our kids, which I mean, that's not any better, right? So the reality is we all are being exposed to these things, and it's actually taking a toll on our health. So what do we do right now? Do we wait till January 1 to fix some things? No, absolutely not. If your A1C is already at 15, and that's the way we measure given the average of your blood sugars, why are we going to wait till January? We need to wait till January. Unfortunately, people at risk for things like stroke, hyperosmolar coma, to where the sugar's so high now they're in a coma. We don't need to wait. We need to handle things now. One, if you put some things in place, it makes it easier when you transition in January. Okay, so that's why I came on here to say is let's take back control now. What are we waiting on? Now, I have an 8-week challenge group, Full Health and Wellness, and that's where I'm putting people in. And we have a challenge. And this challenge this week is to swap out unhealthy foods for healthy foods. And I did a post about that actually earlier today, just with some simple swaps. But it really is that obvious. I think sometimes we overthink things and we make it more complicated because that way it'll make it harder to do. And then it'll make it something we don't want to do, but it doesn't have to be hard. The great thing about the products I do like is they help turn off the carb noise and the food noise, which is great right now when the floodgates have been opened. Okay. And so I have a couple people watching, and I'm sure you probably can agree that the reality is once things start, it's like hard to turn it off. Hard to turn it off. So right now, I want to talk about the things I'm using to really help my people. One, say no. Just say no. I had this when I was a kid. There was somebody who was, oh man, I gotta say this story. Well, I don't want to tell who the story is about, but we were kids and we were hiding. We were hiding for for hide and go seek, and I don't know why this made me think of this. We were hiding for hide and go seek, and he was hiding behind this chalkboard. You know those big chalkboards that used to be able to push around the room. He was hiding behind this chalkboard, and he was a little large, and so we were about. He was like 9 or 10. I was a little bit older, and so the young girl was trying to squeeze in behind him and she couldn't get in. And she was like, just stop eating, as if that was the simplistic answer to her being able to hide behind this chalkboard. But sometimes the answer is that simple. I may have been joking, but the answer is that simple, but it's hard to do. Literally, fasting is when you stop eating. You take a break from eating. You eat in a window, not the entire day. And if you're somebody dealing with insulin resistance, you want to snack every couple hours. You do. That's part of what's driving that is the insulin resistance. And so when you tell somebody to stop eating or too fast, it becomes a daunting task, which is why I actually looked into these natural products to be able to help people do the fasting, because so much happens when you fast. Literally, when you fast, your body heals itself. Your body heals itself. Your cells start to repair. Mhm. And that's just with you not eating. That is a God given healing ability that you don't have to sign up for. You don't have to pay money for. All you have to do is take a break or organize your eating. Really, just organizing your eating. That's it. And it's called autophagy. AUTOPHAGY. I think I spelled that right. And Dr. Osim got a Nobel Prize for this back in like 2016, 2017. Point is, this is a well documented state that happens to our bodies when we take a break. But if you're dealing with insulin resistance, that is hard to do. That's like telling somebody to do something their body is screaming the opposite for, especially now when you've opened the floodgates for things that you don't usually eat, especially now. So, what do we do about it? Well, there's some things you can do actually with how you eat. So I'm going to talk about the lifestyle changes and then I'm going to talk about the nutraceuticals I like. But there's some lifestyle changes you can do. You can. Now, eating more protein can be very helpful because it actually can boost your GLP-1 hormone. How about that's a nice thing, right? But it also makes you burn more energy as you break that down, break that macronutrient down. So that's helpful too, right? And the order of what you eat can actually make a big difference. So that GLP-1 hormone, when I say that, most people feel like they know what they're talking about, know what that is, because they've seen so many people on these injectables. Well, these injectables bind to a receptor in your brain to pretend, well, not a receptor in your brain, but they bind to a receptor to pretend as if they are your GLP-1. Well, your body actually makes that hormone in the small intestine. It makes it. But because of time with how you've been eating, not managing your stress, not managing your sleep, you've actually not been making that GLP-1 hormone appropriately. And so you may be a little low or you may not be using it well, but there's ways to boost it. So eating protein can boost it. Also, eating more fiber. And why is that? Why would that matter? Because I said it's in your gut. And fiber actually treats the bacteria in your gut. We need the trillions of bacteria in our gut to actually be working at their best level. So that requires us to feed that bacteria, the trillions of bacteria in our gut appropriately. And how do we do that? We need all the colors in the rainbow. Eat the rainbow isn't just for that candy. It's actually for how we should eat our veggies and our fruits. But we also need to be smart about the veggies and the fruit we eat so that way it's not covered in a whole bunch of fertilizers or toxins, right? Organic would be best. And then, people are saying now that's expensive, understandably so. So what do? That's when the fiber blend that I like comes into play. Bottom line, it becomes something to add that fiber back into your lifestyle. And so, what are some other things that help with GLP-1? Exercise. Exercise is good. Exercise helps with that. Getting better sleep, managing your stress, all those things play a huge role in improving insulin resistance. Then, specifically, resistance training does because muscle cells actually have more insulin receptors on them. So, if you're somebody dealing with insulin resistance, you have too much insulin in your bloodstream. So, when you have an increased amount of muscle, you have more muscle cells, you have insulin receptors on those cells, it's going to soak up that insulin and get it out the bloodstream. Because in the bloodstream, that's when it starts causing havoc. That's when it starts causing your blood pressure to get elevated. It tells your kidneys to hold on to sodium. That's going to make your blood volume larger, right? It actually damages not damages, but it causes inflammation of the inside lining of the blood vessels. So that way, that's not a smooth surface to push the blood through. So you got to push harder. That increases the pressure. And then nitric oxide doesn't function well, and that dilates blood vessels. And so if they aren't able to dilate, now they're stiffer. They're stiffer. That's going to increase blood pressure. Okay? And I was seeing a lag time there. I wasn't loving it. But tis life, tis life. But when you have that happen, that's because insulin's being high. So how do we avoid these things? We get the insulin down. Okay, we get the insulin down. That's the whole point of this. And that's the whole point of the lifestyle changes, the resistance training, the increasing the fiber. One, because when you eat the fiber, that dampens the glucose spike from the carbohydrates you eat. So carbohydrates, that's the macronutrient that breaks down into glucose the most. It does. Your fat doesn't break down into any hardly at all. Protein, maybe a little bit, but it's the carbohydrates. And unfortunately, people get addicted to the carbohydrates. That's what some of us are dealing with now is the backlash of opening the door to all those carbohydrates and sweets. And the reason being is because when that sugar kicks up in your bloodstream, it kicks up dopamine. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter that makes us feel good. That's the fun neurotransmitter. That's neurotransmitter that goes up when we're doing stuff we don't have no business doing. That part. But when you're eating sugar, it kicks up. And so the sugar kicks up, but because insulin is on its job, the pancreas is on its job, it sees this glucose going up, it has to release insulin. And when it does, that's going to be a quick drop. And your poor dopamine is like, what happened? What happened? Your brain's like, what happened? The dopamine drops too when that sugar drops. Your brain's looking for the next hit, like literally looking like, where's the next hit? And that's where this bad cycle comes from. There's this cravings, spike, crash. That's the bad cycle, and it happens. And it is something that can happen a lot during the holiday season if we aren't mindful and if we aren't prepared. All you got to do is just prepare. And it's not even preparing your meals, though. That's great. You just prepare, be ready. I think one of the bad habits we do, and maybe this is just me, maybe this isn't, maybe I'm not talking to you. So, turn around. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. But one of the bad habits people do is that they fast before these holiday events. They fast. Why are you fasting before the holiday event? Okay, so that way you're starving before you get there? Not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. And I don't mean fasting like autophagy, healthy fasting. I mean that fasting we do. I remember being in high school and my girlfriend was like, "Oh, Thanksgiving is coming, so I have to do my week-long fast." A week-long fast. She was like as thin as a rail. There are some unhealthy unhealthy eating habits that we have gotten ourselves into. But when you fast like that, starving yourself, not organizing when you're eating, there's a difference between intermittent fasting, time-based eating, and fasting so you can eat a whole bunch at the end of the fast. Okay, that's problematic. That is not good. It's not healthy, because when you break your fast with those wrong foods, you're going to get that crazy sugar spike. You're going to negate all the health benefits that you were getting with your fasting, even though you weren't looking for health benefits. You were just trying to starve so you have enough room for all the calories you're going to eat on the weekend. Okay, no, not a good idea. Not a bad, not a great, not a good habit. It is something that has put people in this awful weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, weight loss cycle. That is not healthy for us. We lose muscle when we have that loss, and then we gain back more fat. It is not good for us. So take control in managing when you're going to eat. So don't fast up until the event. Eat a normal meal before the event. If you want to eat breakfast, eat a breakfast, but eat a savory breakfast, meaning don't have a whole bunch of carbs in that before you go to that event. We just have to be more organized. I think organized would be a better term for it. So I talked about order of eating, and I got 5 more minutes. I talked about order of eating. I talked about resistance training. I talked about I was talking about eating more fiber. I did. What else? We talked about fasting. Okay. I got the things I wanted to talk about. So those are the lifestyle changes. You can do those all on your own. You don't need any help to do that, right? A lot of us do. And that's when the nutraceuticals that I like come into play. Practicing for 20 years, taking care of people across 48 states. I had so many people that were really trying to be consistent, but fell off the wagon. A holiday event like Thanksgiving would come and they wouldn't be able to get back up. And it would be, just like it is now, and they're still eating the dressing or the sweet potato pie or the pound cake. And then it just fell out of control. They felt like they were out of control. And then when it came time to see me, they felt ashamed. They felt bad because now their sugars were up again, or their blood pressure was up again, or their weight was up again, or their cholesterol was up again. When the reality is they just really needed something to help them be consistent or something to help them be accountable. So part of the reason why I have the group and we're doing an 8-week challenge is because I want to give people a place to hold each other accountable, softly. I mean, we all are trying to do this together. So if you're in this group together, it's not anybody calling you out. It's just knowing that somebody else is trying to do the same things you're trying to do. So the nutraceuticals, before I got to go in 5 minutes. So when we talk about needing something to help you be consistent, having something that turns off the carb and the food noise is huge. Wouldn't that make sense to you? Wouldn't that be something you would want to have? That way you aren't trying to overeat the carbohydrates or the sweets. Great thing with the yerba mate drink I like, what this does is it acts pretty much like it boosts your GLP-1 level. It boosts your GLP-1. So that way, GLP-1, that hormone goes to your hypothalamus and tries to tell you, what, you don't need to be eating that. So stop eating it. But it also slows down how food moves through your gut. So that's huge. That way you won't overeat as much. Now, can you overeat the nutraceuticals if you wanted to? But the reality is it kind of is, it's so simple that it makes it hard to do that. It really makes it hard to do that. So you sip on this when you first wake up in the morning for 3 to 4 hours. Then after lunch, you do it again for 3 or 4 hours. It's really that simple. Then the second part of this, because I talked about the gut, if you heard me say that, you have trains of bacteria in your gut. Now you have to treat your gut with the right fiber. And so I told you got to eat the rainbow, but that's a lot of veggies and fruit to try to eat the rainbow. And you got to do more veggies than fruit because fruit is nature's dessert. So having a fiber blend that actually allows you to treat your gut microbiome makes the difference. And actually, this has been studied in the Cleveland Clinic. It's been out for 30 years. It's been shown to compete with a cholesterol medicine at lowering cholesterol. But what it does is it kind of makes a matrix over the sugar, over the cholesterol, over the things you're eating. So it gives you some grace. It gives you some grace when you make these decisions that aren't the best for you, or when you're in this window of trying to regain control over what you may have lost control over. So My plea to you today before I leave is, what are you waiting for? Why do you need to wait till January to make these changes? You don't. What are you waiting for January for? So things can get worse while you're waiting? No. All I'm saying is you would add this into your lifestyle as you kept going along. That way it can dampen the effect. And what happens is, what I find to happen is that the stuff that I want people to do, the lifestyle changes that I want people to do, now they feel empowered to do them. Because one, they have the drink that is actually turning off the food noise, so they aren't reaching for the chips, the cookies, the crackers, the cakes anymore. And then they have the fiber blend. So now they're feeling more full, so where it's hard to overeat. And the yerba mate drink actually has, it boosts your energy. It gives you clarity and focus. So now people are wanting to exercise. So I get to win. I get to get the lifestyle changes I want. And all it took was adding these products back in. So if you're somebody trying to say, I'm gonna wait till January, good and well, you don't need to be waiting, message me. My link right there at the top right, that's how you can get access to these products. My website should actually be pinned in the comments too. If it is not, you can go to my profile page. It's there. Because one, I want to see as many people need less meds, and I want to help people be able to be consistent doing it. And it takes us starting now, not tomorrow, now. So if that's you, I'm here for you. Otherwise, I got to go. I got another meeting to get into. I'll be back. Maybe not today, but later. Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you for joining. And for those of you that watch after, because that's what I love about live streams. People are going to see this after. You can still reach me at the QR code and